Hi, everyone. Welcome to CAREOSITY CARECAST. I am your host, Jeremy Watkins. In this episode, I am going to be talking to Cecily Baker, who owns Be Patient Caregiving in South Carolina. And we're going to be talking about ADLs. And if you don't know what ADLs are, continue listening and we'll go over it. They are very important in caregiving. If you already know what ADLs are, keep listening. There's might be some information that you may have forgotten, and it's always good to have a refresher course and continuing education as a caregiver. So without further ado, here we go.
Hello.
Cecily?
Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just sitting here waiting for you to connect.
Yeah,
I'm
I lost my cell phone, so we had to.
gonna.
I done put it down and forgot where I had put it at. But hold on, let me pull my notes up.
Sure.
Um,
Well, uh, while you're hunting for your notes, I know you've been on the CareCast before. Would you mind just kind of reintroducing yourself?
Absolutely. So, greetings to everyone that's listening to us. My name is Cecily Baker. I am the owner of Be Patient Caregiving. We are located at 451 Old John Dodd Road, Bowling Springs, South Carolina, 29316.
Awesome. The last time you were on here, I kind of messed up the audio for the episode a little bit, so I'm going to try not to do that.
Okay, great. You got this. You got
Yeah, we got this.
it's
Next,
so good to be talking to you again.
yeah, it's good to be talking to you too. I heard you had a really good weekend.
I did.
Good. I'm glad. Weddings are always fun, right?
They are absolutely, absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about ADLs, and I'm going to let you do like 90% of the talking
Okay.
because I'm very interested in your education and the way that you like to teach and talk. I believe it's a little bit better than me. So,
Don't say that. Don't say that. You
well,
got
no. I don't know. Like, I like to lock arms with people who, I feel can make things better,
right.
and I can only do so much. And with my personality, so I like to hunt for people with good experience and that can bring some good stuff to the table. So I'm glad I found you on TikTok. And
Yay.
your TikTok videos were very impressive. And I was like, I didn't even think anything like this existed on TikTok. So I'm so glad I ran across you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Same here.
Well, whenever you're ready to get started with the ADLs, we'll go ahead and
Okay.
do it.
All right. So for those who are that are taking care of somebody in the home, whether if you are, it's a personal care home, it's the person's home themselves, or an entity, or some type of facility, and you're gonna hear the word abbreviations ADLs. You're gonna hear that in the hallways, and I guess you say, well, what is ADLs? ADLs is activities of daily living. They are the basic self-care tasks that the individuals need to perform in order to live independently. And those tasks, it's like bathing. What are the rules, or what needs to be done with this person bathing? They may need some type of medical equipment to help them bathe. Dressing, the same thing. They may need like a sit to stand or some type of medical equipment to help them with standing. And just as well as eating. Eating is a task. Toileting and grooming. And a lot of people don't understand, well, why is those important? Well, assessing those activity of daily living gives you the performance of the individual that you're taking care of. It is very important to be able to know the level of performance that they have, because if they're not able to perform, then it needs to be a note taken and notion that they're gonna need some type of assistance.
Mhm.
It is important to be able to perform ADLs because they are very essential to maintaining that person's hygiene, their health, their overall well-being. And also, when individuals are unable to perform these tasks on their own, they may require assistance from caregivers and healthcare officials, other professionals. So that's why you hear entities talking about the activity of daily living, the ADLs. um, I tell people, knowing how to assist others with their ADLs is important because, it allows the individual to maintain their independence and their dignity. And that's why you will hear um, some people say, well, they have PT, which PT is physical therapy. They may have OT. OT is occupational therapy. And they may
Mhm.
have speech therapy. And a lot of people did not know speech therapy is used if you're having swallowing difficulties.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know, and that is part of a person's ADLs, and that's when we talk about their independence and their dignity is putting them through therapy to keep those ADLs going. Because if you don't use it, you will lose it.
Yes.
You would definitely lose it. So by providing support with these tasks, the caregivers can help the individual stay clean.
Hmm.
That's the bathing and the grooming and the getting dressed. Help them stay comfortable,
Hmm.
be able to put on, like today, for example, I took care of a lady and she just wanted to put on her matching pajamas so she could be comfortable.
Hmm.
That was part of her ADLs. And that also can be a part of their mental health too. We want them to be comfortable. You just don't go in and tell them, oh, no, you can't wear this. Oh, no, we're going to put this on you today. No, you ask them. You don't tell them. You ask them and they'll tell you. And also it's about, being healthy with the ADLs, keeping their joints going, keeping them walking,
Yes.
keeping keeping their mindset right. A lot of people don't realize the ADLs are just that important. Also, it promotes a sense of self-worth and
Hmm.
anatomy to a person.
Absolutely.
It makes them feel like, okay, I can do this. I can actually do this.
Yeah.
um and it's important to document ADLs. It is very important for several reasons. It helps, healthcare officials track the changes in a person's activities,
Hmm.
and it helps identify any potential issues or concerns. It also provides valuable information for creating personalized care plans and ensuring that individuals receive the appropriate level of support. In addition to documenting these ADLs, it can help the caregivers and the healthcare providers communicate effectively and coordinate care for the individual.
Yes. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Very good information. Thank you for talking about that. Um, I'd like to kind of walk through um, each ADL.
Okay.
You mentioned a few of them, like the bathing, grooming, um, and the motion and things of that nature. Getting dressed. Let's start talking about the bathing and the grooming.
Okay.
You know.
So, and before we get into that, I just want to let our listeners know that these essential tasks that these individuals need, to be able to perform on a daily basis is very important. It's
Yes.
very important to them taking care of themselves and maintaining their independence. So with the personal hygiene, that would be one ADL, personal
Mhm.
hygiene. And underneath personal hygiene, you may have bathing and grooming. This includes tasks as such as bathing and grooming, like I just said, and oral care. Oral care is brushing their teeth,
Mm.
gum care because they may have gingivitis or whatever. They may have some plaque buildup or something like that. But
I'd
you have
I'd
to,
like to add. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah.
I had an experience today with a caregiver and with a new client, and the new client is total care.
Okay.
And total care basically means that um, we have to provide all ADL assistance,
Yes.
and the caregiver told me this morning that the gentleman when she performed oral care, she pulled out food from his mouth,
Yes.
which means is a telltale sign that the previous caregiver did not perform oral care after eating.
Right. Right.
And this is very dangerous. If oral care is not performed on a total care client,
Mhm.
it can cause aspiration, and aspiration is when food particles get into the lungs, and it can cause infections. It's just very dangerous.
And it can cause choking hazards. And when you have
Yes.
a total care client, the care plan, oral care will be written in the care plan that you receive with the client. If it's a private pay client, you will have to create the care plan yourself, use a care plan template.
Hmm.
And when you go into the homes, your registered nurse should be the first one to go into the home to sit down with that family, and there should be a packet. And in that private pay packet, there should be a care plan that the registered nurse of the entity sits down with that client and um create the care needed for that client, depending
Hmm.
on their situation.
Yes.
Because some of them may be doing it on their own. You never know what the
Mhm.
case may be. So it's always good to do a mouth sweep. And a
Yes.
lot of private caregivers don't know what a mouth sweep is, but that's something that I learned when I had got my CNA license and I was learning long term care.
Hmm.
So it is very good to do a mouth sweep. Also, if you got a total care client that sometimes they can hold food in their jaws, and sometimes it can be a sign of a change of dementia. They leveling and they dementia.
We call it pocketing.
Yep, that's exactly what it's called. And they pocket that food. I was taking care of a dementia client tonight, and I noticed that she was pocketing her rotisserie chicken. So I
Mm.
stopped feeding her the chicken and started rubbing, massaging the side of her jaw, pushing the food out of that pocket.
Yeah.
So I would take my two first fingers, and I would rub that jaw, and she was just a grinning. But I needed her to grin because I needed to see that it was working.
Yes, absolutely.
And after that, I stopped giving her the chicken because I noticed the chicken was a problem. So then I fed her other items on her plate. But from that point on, after every bite she took, I gave her her cup
Hmm.
because we need the fluid to push the rest of that food out of that pocket.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah, it definitely is. All right.
Absolutely. Um,
So
so
that
it's
right
a
there with the
mhm.
oral care is a big one.
Yes.
Document any assistance that is needed or any difficulties the individual may have in completing that task. And that's what me and you talking about, you know, the oral care with him,
Yeah.
her pocketing the
Hmm.
food and stuff. So that was documentation.
Absolutely.
And you go to the family with that documentation and they'll tell you what's going on with them or let them or tell them so they can be aware because you're not with that client 24 hours
Yes.
and they need to know, hey, my loved one is pocketing for some reason.
Hmm.
They don't know why, but that anytime you see stuff like that, that means a change is coming.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's why, like you just said, that documentation is so important, so we can track any declines.
That's
Um,
right.
yeah, for sure. For instance, I one of my first clients when I started my company. Uh, he's still with us, and
Yay.
yeah, and he used to shave himself, and and it's I noticed on days going in with him that he started having more more hair on his face, more uh, stubble is what I was the word I was looking for.
Mhm.
So, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, you usually shave every day. Are you okay?" And at first it was, well, I think it needs new blades. So, I got new blades for him. And then even with the new blades, he would still not shave his face. And I'm just like, or is this something you don't want to do for yourself anymore? And he's just like, well, I just, um, I can't really see that well to get everything, and I feel like I miss spots. So that was a decline.
Yep.
Okay.
He was
Boom.
leveling. We
Yep.
call it leveling. We
Yeah.
try not to use the word decline because that is very personal for families. So
Right.
we just say level.
Hmm.
Um Level sounds more professional, and it don't sound harsh because you got to understand the three caring challenges that these family members are dealing with. They're dealing with the aging challenge, they're dealing with the carrying challenge, and they're dealing with the heart on their sleeve challenge.
Yes. Right.
So that verbiage, it can get you in trouble. It can make the family members just slam out on you because you don't know their
Yeah.
depression level. You don't know like where they are
Hmm.
in that emotional state. So and up here in South Carolina, we call it leveling.
Gotcha. I will keep that in mind. Wow, that's some good stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so so yeah, we ended up, I had to add it to the care plan that we needed to start shaving him ourselves.
That's right.
Um,
That's
so I also wanted to touch on bathing. A lot of people, they think that just uh, soap, rinse, dry, done. All right. There's so much more to bathing than just that.
It is. In the nursing homes, unfortunately, the ratio is different. So what you just said, that's what it is in the nursing home.
Yes.
You don't have time to spend all the time with them to give them the proper baths that they deserve.
Hmm.
You may have anywhere from 9 to 16 clients by yourself, and you got two baths. You got to get them in and get them out. But bathing is very important.
Yes.
It is important to their health because bathing gives them a self-esteem, number one.
Hmm.
Bathing makes them feel clean because they're used to bathing themselves.
Yes.
Also, bathing them gives you a chance to check their skin for any skin tears,
Bingo.
any pressure points. They may be starting to get in the pressure points. They start out as internal little cysts or whatever, and they start growing outside of the skin, and then now
Hmm.
you got a bed sore on that press. So bathing is very essential. That's how you're
Hmm.
going to be able to keep up with your client or your loved one's body and how their body is leveling. And if they have any skin tears or any rashes that's growing from sweating, but you got to be careful because when they start getting bedridden type
Hmm.
and they're in facilities and stuff like that and they're not really going anywhere, they don't bathe them more than 2 times a week. They may
Yeah.
get 2 baths a week to keep from drying their skin out.
If they're lucky.
Yes, if they're lucky. And it depends on the facility and how well the facility, has their ratio up, with their staff and stuff like that. But it's
Hmm.
very you gotta stay on top, especially with them bed sores when you bathing them and they got sores on them and stuff. Don't put soap on those sores. Use the cleaning supplies that's been given to you by whoever is over that person's sores, whoever the is the um
Wound care.
yeah, whoever is the party that's responsible, because that's personal too.
Yeah. Yeah, wound care is very important.
Right.
You really have to, yeah. I'm glad you touched on that too.
Yeah, I don't recommend wound care if you don't know what you're doing because you can make it even worse. But it is always good to understand ulcers. Ulcers, a bed sore is a internal ulcer that starts from the inside out. And I
Yes.
guess they say, well, how did they get this ulcer? What is from being on that same spot too much pressure points? So
Hmm.
the ulcers for seniors, the back of your shoulder blade, that's
Yes.
pressure.
Hmm.
Your elbow is pressure. The top of your tailbone is pressure, and that's the number one place they get them, and it's so hard to heal. The
Hmm.
bottom of the butt cheeks is a pressure sore. The back of the knees is a pressure sore, and the
Hmm.
back of the heels is a
Yeah, you're
pressure
going
sore.
into bed mobility ADL now.
Yeah, we going all the way into it. And for women, some of them get pressure sores under the breast
Yeah.
lobes, because in nursing
Mhm.
homes they don't wear. Some of them don't even wear a bra. They don't
Right.
need it or whatever the case may be. And then you can get it in between the thighs if they're
Hmm.
not cleaning them or drying them off when they're wearing pull ups. They're not drying them, or they're not drying them when they give them a bath. It is very important that you dry that individual off if you're responsible for their bath.
Very thoroughly, yes.
Yes, very thoroughly, because if you don't, there may be a little red area there later in a couple of days that'll start growing and you have no clue. And then you're trying to figure out, well, how did he get that sore? Well, he wasn't dried off enough.
Another facet to bed mobility is, especially with a total care client, you want to make sure that you are repositioning them every 2 hours at
Yeah.
least.
You're supposed to roll those clients from side to side.
Yes.
You're supposed to use bed wedges to help wedge behind their back.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use the five pillow. It's a five pillow strategy that we learned in CNA school. It teaches you how to put pillows around a client that's bedridden so they can be comfortable. So it's very important that they follow the care plan and they document the roles. What time did you turn them on their left side? What
Yes.
time did you turn them on the right side? And you make sure that whoever's coming on the shift behind you, you debrief them and
Yeah.
tell them the last turn cycle, say your shift is 3 to 7, and your caregiver, the caregiver that come in at 7 o'clock, she gets there at like 6:45.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell her the last time that person was turned.
Yes.
Say, she may say, well, I put him on his left side at 6:30. So in her mind, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, I gotta go turn him again. And
Mm-hmm.
she may say, well, he used the bathroom the last time he was toileted was at 6:30. So she
Yeah.
get out everything at the same time. So she know in 2 hours she has to go back, or within 2 hours. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
say within 2 hours, she has to go back in there and turn that person again and check their bottoms, to make sure they dry. If not, if they're
Yeah.
wet, put something clean and dry on them, and use creams.
Mm-hmm.
The Z paste is
When I
good.
was working in a facility, we called it doing rounds.
Right, exactly. You have your rounds that you go around and you check your clients and you rotate them and
Mm-hmm.
you change them, you
Yeah.
know. And that's what they do. And then you document them ADLs on the kiosk because it has to match their care plan. And
Absolutely.
it has to say that this person still needs these services and this help.
Mm-hmm. Now let's see here. So you touched on another ADL, which is toileting.
Oh,
Let's talk about that a little bit.
oh yeah. So with that toileting, everybody should know the biggest fall risk is in between the toilet and the tub.
Right.
The biggest fall risk. Clients have a hard time getting up off of low toilets. I tell families, if you're able to get a higher toilet in here, a raised seat toilet, get one, or get the medical equipment of the bedside commode that can sit over the toilet that has handles on it.
Yes.
And take away the rugs. No rugs around the toilet. That's a foul risk. Take all the rugs out of the bathroom and make sure that your loved one has on shoes with a
Mm-hmm.
nice solid bottom on it, or grip. Those grip socks that you get in physical therapy when you go in to the hospital, make sure they have grips on the bottom of it, so there is no fall risk in between the toilet and the tub. So toileting can be taking somebody to the restroom, sitting them on the toilet, and then coming back and checking on them to
Mm-hmm.
see if they're finished. You give them time. You give gravity time to affect them so they can pour out, let both one and two go at the same time.
Yes.
And that means that you may, when they stand up, you're the responsible party to clean them, to make sure they're clean. So you're going to have your toilet tissue,
Yes.
and you're going to have they call them dude wipes.
Yeah. Dude wipes.
They call them
Yeah.
dude wipes. Real, I'm serious. Some people just use regular. Some people just go to the drugstore and just get baby wipes because it's a lot cheaper just to go to the drugstore and get some baby wipes, and
Yeah.
they can use them. Just don't put them in the toilet and clog the toilet up. Throw them in the trash. But
Yes.
that's normally, and you always wipe from the front to the back. You don't
Oh, there
wipe.
you go.
You don't wipe from the back to the front. No, when you cleaning them, you wipe from the front to the back. You wipe up. You
And
don't.
there's a term for what you're talking about. We call it perineal care.
Yes, perineal care. See, these are the terms, they'll start learning if they was to go to start getting into nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
These terms will be on your exam. It'll be all out through the book. your skill
Yes.
work. You'll hear the teachers saying, the Panera care. So yeah, that's one thing when it comes to toileting. Even when you have an incontinent client, the same thing with the toileting.
Yes.
You have your wipes and you have your tissue, and you will learn that because the items that you need to provide toilet and care is the same items that's on the test. You have to be
Yes.
able to tell your teacher what are your items what are the supplies that you need to perform the perineal care. If
Mm-hmm.
you miss your supplies, then you automatically flunk. That means you didn't study.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, I remember taking my CNA board.
Well, that was hard. That was, but it's for accountability too.
Yeah, for sure.
So now I just keep them. I every 2 years I get them $25.
Right. And I tell my caregivers, I have some licensed caregivers and some that are not licensed CNAs, but have been doing caregiving for 20, 30 plus years. But I tell them, if you want to get your CNA, I will help you pay for that,
See,
'cause-
that's amazing. And
Mhm.
see, when you do that, you can contract. See, that'll make your entity big because down here, I didn't pay for my CNAs. The nursing
Yeah.
homes, pay for your CNAs if you want to
Right.
become a CNA. And see, with you offering that opens up a wealth for you to get more clients and have top-notch caregivers working for you.
Absolutely.
That's
And
amazing.
that's really what the goal is, and the if you're educated, you have experience already out the gate. If you go through a CNA class and pass your CNA boards, you automatically right there probably put about a good 5 years of experience under your belt just by educating yourself.
Yep. Yep. And it makes you more valuable. It makes your likability factor bigger. It makes you more valuable in the
Hmm.
market. And I'm telling you, people want CNAs to take care of their loved ones in the home. I'm serious. They
Yeah,
do. They do. They don't too much
absolutely.
want a registered nurse coming in. They want a registered nurse to do the assessments, but they know, registered nurse, that's a bigger career level. And they know what she just gonna be buffering until she find a job that's gonna pay her what she's worth. So they know that's temporary.
Hmm.
So families be wanting the CNAs because they got some skill set, they got some education behind them.
Absolutely. ADLs are absolutely important to know and have experience with. Are there any other ADLs we haven't touched on or
Yeah,
talked about?
so
Ah,
dressing
yes.
is one. We know whether the individuals are able to dress themselves independently or if they require assistance,
Mm,
with selecting the clothing, and require assistance with putting on the clothing. So that's another
yes.
ADL when it comes to dressing. And also let me make this quick note about dressing. If you ever go into a nursing home and you see the loved ones in winter clothes all year round,
Hmm.
that is to be true because you got to realize a lot of their cortisol is gone.
Yeah.
They are not developing metabolism like we are.
Right.
So you put them in layers so they can be comfortable. That was we was talking about being comfortable earlier when we first started. So when it comes to dressing, you make sure you put your loved one in layers so you don't constantly have the heat up and down.
Absolutely. That
Make
is so important.
Right. Throw blankets in their chairs on their bed and stuff. So
Hmm.
that way if you're hot, then you can keep the house cool and you still taking care of your loved one at the same
Hmm.
time.
Absolutely.
And
Another thing, huh?
go ahead.
I was just going to touch on how to properly assist with dressing.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you don't want to jerk their arms. You want to make sure you're being very easy. Um, when because with elderly people, I mean, they're frail.
Right.
Um, their skin. If are trying to pull their arm through a sleeve or something, and which you're not supposed to do anyway,
Mm.
you could give them a skin tear very easily.
And there's
Uh,
there's techniques to putting their clothes on. Like you
mhm.
always dress the weak side first.
Yes.
You always dress the weak side first. Some people they find it easier to dress them in a button down shirt than a pullover shirt. But if you
Mm.
do put them in pullover shirts, always put the sleeves, put the arms in the sleeves all the way up to the shoulder blade. Then once you pull the shirt over the head, it's simple. They're inside of it. But if you have to put them in a button-up shirt, always dress the weak side first
Yes.
and use the strong side to help you continue to dress the client. Make sure their pants and stuff is not wrinkled up, because those wrinkles can start to put imprints in them, and those imprints can turn into the bed sores.
Oh, you are touching on some good stuff. Yes.
So they really need to make sure that them shirts is pulled down in the back. They ain't
Hmm.
all jacked up. The pants is turned around, and then use pullover pants.
Yep.
Use the pullover pants with the drawstring in them. Something easy.
Yes.
When it comes to taking care of these individuals, when it comes to clothing, your life will change, because you have to make it comfortable and easy for them. Also, if your loved one is bedridden, I tell people all the time, if they already got nightgowns, don't buy any new stuff.
Yes.
Use what your loved one already have. Cut slits in the back of them. Cut a slit all the way up to the middle of the back,
Yes.
and then you can just pull it over their head and
Hmm.
save some money, because when we die and leave this earth, we can't take none of that stuff with us.
Absolutely.
So use what they already have, just make it functional.
Yes.
And I've taught a lot of families that, I said, no, 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 let's go ahead and look at her nightgowns. I love to go into the homes and help them plan it out and get the home ready for their loved one to come home from rehabilitation. I love to do it. I don't know why, but it's helping them get ready, and I always say, let's pull out the clothes, let's see what they got. And I said, well, you won't have to do this until they get to that point. But these old nightgowns that they already have, these old t-shirts, you can just cut a slit from the tail of it all the way up to the middle of the back. And
Hmm.
it's functional. So it's easy for the caregiver to rotate them from side to side to change their briefs, their diapers. We don't want to say diapers because they're adults, but
Right.
understand what we're trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. I got a whole list of ADLs here, but I'm just
Keep
gonna hit
going.
the main ones. Also eating. We
Yes.
talked about that as an ADL, the ability to feed themselves, including any difficulties that
Hmm.
may have with chewing and swallowing.
Yes.
And I tell people, if your look, every time you get them a spoonful, at at least give them a sip in between 1 to 2 spoonfuls, so that sip helps push and reassure that the food is going down into the stomach and not into the esophagus and not
Yeah,
into the lungs.
absolutely.
Mobility is another ADL.
Hmm.
That's assessing the individual's ability to move around independently, including walking, standing, and transferring from one surface to another. A lot of people
Range
don't
of
think.
motion as well.
Yeah, so that's a ADL. If you gotta help them stand up,
Hmm.
um, you gotta walk them to the toilet and help them sit on the toilet. You gotta help them off the toilet. If you're transferring from, when they say a surface, they talking about a couch or a chair to the wheelchair.
Hmm.
So that's what that means.
I want to mention too that if an elderly person needs assistance with standing, transferring, walking, keep a gait belt on you and use it every single time.
Reason why we talking about the gait belt is because when your seniors get older, the cortisol has left the body.
Hmm.
They are prone to shoulder fractures,
Yes.
dislocated shoulders. So if you're sticking your arm under your loved one arm and you think you're locking them in and you're helping them stand up, you're actually slowly discolate that shoulder will never be the same again.
Right.
Yeah, I got tired tongue right now, but
Hang tongue
dislocating that shoulder. So that's
on.
why it's important to use a gait belt. A gait belt will be safety for you and the caregiver,
Hmm.
for the client and the caregiver at the same time. It keeps the client bones from being fractured or dislocated or broken, and it also saves your company from getting sued
Mm-hmm.
from a personal injury that was caused by a caregiver. So, you know,
Yep.
the caregiver needs training in her file. When you do the personal file and the confidential files, you have your records for elderly abuse, child abuse, and you have your records for documenting and record keeping. And then you have your documentations for in services and trainings. You make sure that you have those trainings in there, and those trainings are free to entities online. You just have to find a really good platform that
Mm-hmm.
you think is good enough to offer trainings. And I used to go around and do trainings for people, showing them how to use the Hoyer lifts, showing them how to use the gate belt and the importance of
Yes.
using these items to keep from hurting the client.
Yes. Good stuff.
Yeah.
What else you got?
All right. So we did mobility, and then we talked about toileting.
Mm-hmm.
That's being able to use the toilet independently, assisting with toileting tasks. Then we just finished talking about transferring safely from a bed or a chair using a gate belt, a
Mm-hmm.
Hoyer lift, or sit to stands. It's hard to find sit to stands in homes, but you do see Hoyer lifts in the home. It's
Yes.
very important that you get your Hoyer lift training. Now, these trainers that I'm speaking of, we have a place called YouTube University. And that stuff is free, y'all. Them
Absolutely.
trainers is so free. UCLA is a college. Please look up UCLA for our listeners. They have so much free information when it comes to senior care, elderly care, dementia care. You can type in Hoyer lift training. You can type in gate belt training. There are so many CNA schools.
Mm-hmm.
COVID brought this about. These things was not online before COVID. When COVID hit and people could not get to people like they were used to, they had to go online.
Yes.
And those materials are still there to this day, and I love it. As well as there are some entities like Allison is a good one. Care
Mm-hmm.
Academy, um, Academy is another one. That's good to give you free trainings. Allison is really good for free training. So please do not bypass these free trainings, you guys. YouTube University, I mean, I like the visuals, so you can actually see what it is and see how
Yes.
to do it. And it's a step-by-step process. It
Yeah,
really is.
absolutely.
And the last one I have on here is transferring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically the same thing that we was talking about. Be careful with your transfers. Wear tennis shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Closed toe shoes when you're trying to transfer. Make
Yeah.
sure that the clients is in position, and make sure if you're taking them from the wheelchair to a surface, make sure the wheelchair is locked.
Yes.
If you transfer from a bed to the wheelchair, and if it's a hospital bed, make sure that bed is
Yes.
locked and lowered now, because you don't want a fall risk and you don't want the client to be in the floor. So make sure the bed is at the lowest position.
Yes.
Make sure all four wheels are locked, and you make sure that wheelchair is locked as well.
I would like to add, yes, as far as the bed being all the way down, but if you are assisting a person, it may be beneficial, as long as you have the gate belt on and you are holding on to the client, you can raise that bed as long as the client is sitting, on the edge of the bed and you're right
Yes.
there. You can lift the bed and
Yes.
that will lift the client up and make transferring a little bit easier for you on your back.
You can. That is so true. And make sure, ladies and gentlemen, when you studying for your CNAs, ask your teacher, that question, because it can be kind of confusing. Because
Right.
when you're going through and you're doing all your tasks, they always say lock lower.
Yes.
That it's
Mhm.
like the three L's. Um, so just make sure you clarify that to them when y'all doing the transfer
Yes.
from the bed to the wheelchair. Ask your teacher, hey, is it okay if I make the bed higher? They'll tell you, so
Mhm.
you don't mess up. So that was a good important point that you
Yeah.
hit on, Jeremy. I like that. That's all right.
Use everything at your disposal is my philosophy.
Yeah, it is. So, it is very important to use clear and concise language.
Yes.
Please avoid making assumptions when it comes to clients. Do not assume anything. Don't be assuming blood pressures. Do
Hmm.
not assume nothing. I repeat, what you see, be honest, because that documentation is just that important. And be sensitive to the individual's privacy and dignity. So, like, you may there is a nursing home in my area that has AIDS clients only,
Hmm.
and nobody knows that,
Yeah.
but the case managers and stuff like that. So, that privacy is very important,
Yes.
when you're documenting those ADLs, and be honest, and be accurate when you document, because that individual's ability to perform them ADLs is important. It's important to whether they're going to be able to stay at home, and it helps provide the best possible care and support to them to maintain their independence and quality of life.
Yes.
So we don't want to be falsifying, documentation when it comes to these activity of daily living. Don't, just be honest about it, because you're helping this person continue to have the care they need at home.
Absolutely. I'd like to add one more thing to the fall prevention. Um, when you're assisting uh, with a transfer, you want to make sure too that your client either has slip grip socks on, or at least shoes with a rubber sole that's going to grip the ground, because you're not going to want to transfer someone who's slipping all over the place.
That's right. Do
Dangerous
not.
for the client and it's dangerous for the caregiver.
That's right. Do not. I repeat, you know, the first thing I do when I have a client that I have to transfer, shoes is on my mind.
Yes.
I go get them grip socks, or I go get those shoes, and I put those shoes on that person. And if I have to take the shoes back off, I do. But
Yeah.
it's for the safety of the client and the caregiver, because the caregiver, that's that's workers' comp insurance.
Right.
So
You're right.
it's very important, that they know to put shoes on. If you're going to hire a caregiver to take care of somebody, that lifting is part of the protocol. And they have, I would put a clause in there and make them initial that clause and date it to say, hey, we took an in-service class on it, so they know to put shoes on them or
Yes.
grips before they pick them up, because that's dangerous.
Yes. And also, not only just for clients that you need to assist with transfers, but even your more independent clients, make sure that they have slip grip socks on or rubber sole shoes to make sure that they don't slip and fall.
Right, because they
Uh,
can
yeah,
become a fall risk.
yeah, absolutely. Every if they need caregivers for a reason, and you need to be there to make sure that when they do independently get up or start walking, that they're not going to slip and fall because they have just regular socks on or no socks at all.
Right, right. Get them some bedroom shoes or something,
Hmm.
so they don't, and make sure that you take rugs. Rugs are pretty, they are,
Hmm.
but the edges of the rugs are the
Yeah,
fall risk.
absolutely.
You know,
O2 tubing as well. Oh my gosh, that is a pet peeve of mine.
yes. I mean, especially if they got drop foot, they drag their feet,
Yes.
they can't really see what they're doing, and they got a walker, and they're trying to pick the walker up, and it
Hmm.
catches the edges of those rugs. And that's a fall risk. You gotta watch them rugs. I mean, if you don't need the rugs, I would, best thing for safety is just to pull them up and put them in a closet until
Absolutely.
you can use them again. But watch the room. I tell people, when we do an assessment, we do the assessment from the telephone,
Yeah.
and then in the car going into the house. Make sure the pathways for them is clear, and there's no sticks or debris where they can hurt themselves. If you do not have bars in your bathroom, get you some bars. I know in South Carolina Medicaid, they do a lot to help these clients. They'll even help redo a bathroom so a
Hmm.
client can be to take a bath.
For sure.
Stuff like that. I put bars in there So there is no fall rest. They got all the bars to hand on, to hold on to. And sometimes you can put bars in the bedroom if you need to, but it's very important to assess any situation when you're doing ADLs.
Yes, absolutely. My goodness, that is a lot of information packed in almost 45 minutes.
We did it, though. We did.
We did it. Man, I really hope everyone that listens to this has, a better picture of how important ADLs are, what they are.
Yeah.
And so thank you,
You're welcome.
Cicely, so much.
You're welcome. Thank
And
you for having me again. And a quick
absolutely.
note, you guys, the ADLs also help them to continue to use their abilities, because if they don't use it, they will lose it.
Mm-hmm. That's so important. Well, I'm going to try not to go so far in between episodes. I'm not sure the next thing we'll talk about,
Okay.
but if you have a topic in mind, just let me know. We'll make it happen, Captain.
Yes, we sure will. I like this, and I know it's going to continue to grow.
For sure.
The more we put it out there, more people start saying, "Hey, y'all listening to them too right there? That be talking about how to take care," because we giving people tips. Because there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of brand new caregivers, um, every day as our loved ones start to age. So every day there's a new caregiver. Every day.
I think I had this idea, and I know I'm saying this on the podcast, but I had this idea that you had mentioned doing a video
Yeah.
um, episode, and I like that idea. I wanted to take it a step further and see if we could get some of our caregivers involved and maybe
Excellent.
do like a Zoom and maybe do like a question answer type thing with all the caregivers, with me, you, and
Yeah.
uh, your caregivers, my caregivers, and see what happens.
We definitely, and I got two that would be willing to do it. I have a facility caregiver, then I have a private caregiver. So
Okay,
they're gonna have two different experiences.
wonderful. I would love to hear their experiences for
Absolutely.
sure. Well, we'll talk about that more, but thank you so
Okay.
much. And it's almost 10 o'clock right now, so
All right.
we need to get ourselves in bed.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for having
You're
me on your
welcome.
show, you guys. And thank you to our listeners. Without you guys, I don't even know if we would have a show. So thank you for listening, and please share, share,
Yes,
share, share.
yes, absolutely. Knowledge is power, and we got to share power.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Cicely.
All
We'll
right.
talk.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the CAREOSITY CARECAST. I hope that these episodes help you in your caregiving journey and assist you better care for the people that you care for. Thank you so much for listening. Be well.